Hey DIYers, and welcome to day 3. Today we're going to cover a couple different things. To start off, I wanted to bounce back a little bit. And hey Jexter. And I wanted to cover a couple of different things. Pulling up Slack here too, so if you guys want to comment in Slack or YouTube, I am prepared for that. Alright, so perfect. So I want to go ahead and apologize because of yesterday with just a little hectic. The day was hectic with work and had a big launch this morning. So I tried to cram in the Photoshop thing, and I think overall it was fine, but it just didn't feel very succinct for me. So hopefully today will be a lot better. We're going to start. I'm going to kind of bounce back quickly because we kind of covered the box model a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that we kind of covered it in more detail. So I was going to build a nice demo, and then I found a guy named Guy Rutledge, and he did a really great little demo. So I figured, why not plug him and show his work off, because he did a really good job with it. So we talked briefly about the box demo, not a ton. I'm not going to worry too much about the code behind it because, we already talked about how to structure a margin and padding and stuff like that. What I wanted you to see is kind of how it all relates to one another. So the blue area is your content. The green area is your padding. That's your border, and that's your margin. So this is how it affects your box, basically. So let's say we have a 200 pixel by 200 pixel box. If you throw a 20 pixel padding on there, technically you have a 220 by 240 wide by 240 tall, because padding actually affects the width. So if we were to add the width to this, of course it's going to get bigger. So it's 375. We're going to bounce it down to 200 again. That's the only thing I'm not sure about here. There we go. Alright, so now let's say we're going to link all of them, and we're going to take it up to 40. And you see that my box grew. So it doesn't change the size of your content, but it changes the footprint of your content. The margin's going to move your content around, and it won't increase. So if I increase margin now, we'll link them all just so you can kind of see. If you increase your margin, the box doesn't get any bigger. It just moves around. So if I make it smaller, it stays the same size. It just kind of gets closer to its child objects or parent objects, whatever objects are around it. But if I crank up that padding, man, that box is now, almost 100 by almost 200 pixels wider, because you've got 100 on this side and 100 on this side. So now, and that's something you need to keep in mind, and border does the same thing. If you were to crank out that border a little bit further, actually I'm going to bring it back here and link them all just like I was doing. See, your box is getting bigger again. So the only thing that doesn't affect the size, the dimensions of your box, is your margin. If you're playing with padding and you're wondering why your box is running into another box or causing stuff to wrap or break down to the next line, it's probably because you're using padding instead of margin. And margin can do the same thing. It can push it down, but padding affects the overall width of your box. So you need to keep that in mind when you're styling something. If you've got, say with our images, we decided we're going to go 300 pixels wide and have them all full left. Well, if I do 300 pixels wide, and my math is for 300 pixels wide, and I put 20 inches of padding on each side, it's no longer 300 pixels. So that's just something I wanted you guys to see. And I'm going to put this link in the repo so you have it. He did a really great job with this, so make sure you guys check it out. And I think this will be a great just thing for you guys to look back at when you guys are looking at these kind of things. So that was the biggest thing I wanted to bounce back to last night that I kind of missed. Is there anything? Were there any like glaring questions from last night? Because I know I flew through a bunch of stuff. Was there anything that was like I don't understand even one bit of that? And if there was anything like that, please bring it up. We'll do. I'm gonna plan on doing a break at about between 7:45 and 8 tonight, and probably closer to 7:45. Because I'm going to cover some stuff about JavaScript and Node and just kind of going through what it is and how it works and how it's different from like a jQuery or a Angular, things like that. So hopefully once we get down past the talking part, then we can move into actually building our Node server and kind of writing a little bit of JavaScript. Let's see here. So I think, and then we also had a request to do a little bit of gulp work. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to really do a bunch of teaching around it, and I'm probably going to fly through it pretty quickly, but I wanted you guys to see how at the beginning of this course I said I wasn't going to show you guys how, or no, I didn't say that. I didn't say I wasn't going to. I said I was not going to build the project like I would normally build it because I wanted it to be still fairly, entry level, accessible, not too many extra things going on, but I think it would be beneficial for you guys to see how I set it up now that I've kind of gotten some experience and know a little bit more about the best way to deal with front end. So I will show you guys how I would set it up, and I will do a little bit of demo for you on the gulp side and just show you the structure of the way I would typically structure this project if I knew, if I was doing this professionally. So hopefully that will be helpful. Yeah, so let's go ahead and dive in a little bit here. So the first thing we're going to cover tonight is so Brian and Ozarka. I'm going to hold those until the break. Right after the break, so before we start back into after our break, I'll answer those two questions. Totally great questions, and I will dive into those a little bit deeper here in a minute, or in about 30 minutes. So I've got them noted down, and I will take care of them here after the break. So let's start with, what is JavaScript? So JavaScript is basically, I think, the actual definition is like JavaScript is an object-oriented programming language. The way I define it is it's used to make interactive web pages, or to make web pages interactive is probably the right way to say that. It does run on a visitor's computer, and that's great. That takes the load off of your server. And it doesn't require like a player like Flash would or anything like that. It's built into your most modern browsers. I mean, I don't think there's a modern browser that doesn't have it anymore. I think that would be ridiculous not to have it. So assuming that your visitor has, JavaScript enabled, that's the way it is by default, and they're using a browser that was built in the last, 5 to 10 years. Granted, the spec has changed a lot in 10 years. So, I mean, if they may have JavaScript, but it's old and it may not do some of the new cool stuff. But most modern browsers, the ones that have, 85% to 90% of, the usage statistics are gonna work. So as long as they don't have it deactivated, the JavaScript, it's gonna run just fine. So, So I would say, what do you need to run JavaScript? And that I kind of covered that. And, I think we're going to use jQuery tonight. And I don't think there's a problem with jQuery at all. And I don't think, it's not used because it's used a ton. I would say more people know how to use jQuery than they know how to use like a vanilla, like raw JavaScript. And I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily at all. You can get a lot more done quickly with less lines of code with jQuery. Where you run into a problem with it is a couple of things. One, it's not there by default. So while jQuery is a JavaScript language, it isn't a it's a library. So it's basically a bunch of functions, classes, whatever you want to call it, methods built into or built with JavaScript, built into a library, and you include that library in your files. So I'm going to go ahead and open up our course from yesterday. I'm going to make this sucker big. So you have to include it. So that's what this is doing. This is reaching out to Google's CDN and saying, hey, we need the newest JavaScript or newest jQuery, please. So there's a wait time. Even if it's on your server, there's another HTTP request. There's another call to the server, so it can slow down a bit. With that being said, I would be surprised to find that there is an agency that doesn't use it or a company that doesn't use it. I think some of the bigger ones like Apple might not use jQuery, but they're a lot different. So I think it's great to know vanilla JavaScript because there are things you can do in vanilla JavaScript that you just simply can't do in jQuery. And the beautiful thing about JavaScript, and I kind of ran into this in a project I was working on. I can't go into too much detail because it was because I just can't talk about the actual project itself. But we needed to do something with the HTML elements before the viewer really saw it. So before the client saw it. So that would mean we'd have to put stuff up in the header. Well, we didn't want to load all our JavaScript there, all our jQuery. So how did we handle this? Well, I did everything I needed to do in JavaScript because JavaScript's already there. It's already loaded. If your browser's loading and your page is loading, your JavaScript's there. So what we did is I wrote just a script tag. I embedded it in the page at the very top before anything else loaded, and that gave me everything I needed to start manipulating the DOM. And actually, I take that back. We actually put it about mid-page, so the HTML elements could load a little bit before I started playing with them. But it loaded immediately because it's there, and that saved time, and that also got rid of that little blip of, because we were basically reversing the scroll of a page and starting from the bottom and going up. So it required that JavaScript to be able to make it so that just happened when the first thing the viewer saw was the page reversed and scrolling up. Before, without that, the user was sometimes on a slow connection seeing the whole page built out from the top down, then it reversed real quick and brought them to the bottom, which was jarring, to say the least. So there are times when raw JavaScript can go way beyond jQuery, and that just becomes a tool that you can use if you understand it. So I had the question, do we have to use JavaScript or can we just use HTML? And they're two totally different things. HTML is a markup language that's only designed to basically define static web page content. That's all HTML does. Whereas JavaScript's more of like a programming language that's meant to do like dynamic tasks or animation, things like that, things that are alive and interactive. HTML is very static and it's just structure, basically structure and content. There's no manipulating of that structure done by HTML whatsoever. So you need both. To be a front-end developer, you need both. I think that question was asked too. Do you need to know HTML and CSS, or if you want to be like an Angular developer? I'm sure there's jobs out there that don't do HTML and CSS. I think, and they just write Angular. But I think they're few and far between. I think if you want to be any kind of a front-end developer, whether it's Angular, React, Ember, any of those front-end languages, you really should know some HTML and some CSS because you've got most agencies are looking for guys, and especially locally here from St. Louis. If you're anybody's local here, you've got, they're looking for people that can do a little bit of, not everything, because it's impossible to do everything. I feel like, personally, myself, I would be what you consider a jack of all trades, and it's worked. I'm not complaining. I get to do a lot of diverse work because of it, but it can, when you're starting to get into really high level programming, it takes, it can take its toll on you because you're trying to learn high level programming in a bunch of different ways, and it's hard. So, I would say, if you're going to go Angular. But also learn HTML and CSS. If you're going to go React, but also learn HTML, CSS. And realistically, for all of those, a base understanding of what JavaScript does is a huge help. Huge help. When I first started learning Angular, it was kind of driving me a little crazy. And then a buddy of mine kind of helped me learn a little bit more about raw JavaScript. And that just opened up my head to a bunch of different things. So, and it made learning any of these newer front end frameworks easier, personally. So, kind of touched on what the difference between JavaScript and jQuery is. I would say you can do either. There's some people that are purists and think that it's just JavaScript all the way. I don't fall into that category, especially, I think where you run into a problem is where you're just using it for like a click function for one time, because that's a lot of weight to add. I mean, it's not huge, but it's a lot of weight to add for jQuery if you're just using it for a click function or a couple click functions. And when you start getting into higher like animations and things like that, then it makes sense, But if it's just like, hey, I'm going to add click functionality to a few of these, or an onload trigger or something, that people start grabbing jQuery for that, and it's like, you're only really doing one thing, and JavaScript can do that. Yeah, it's a couple extra lines, but you're only doing it in a few places. Use JavaScript, because it'll save your users having to load that jQuery file every time. Yeah, and I think the next logical question is, what is Node? What are we going to do with Node? And Node is basically, it's written in JavaScript, which is great. It's actually built on Chrome's JavaScript runtime, so it's really great for building fast, scalable network stuff. It's event-driven. It's extremely lightweight and efficient, and it's actually can be very well used for like distributed devices and things like that. This thing is pretty much cross-platform compatible. It works on Mac. It works on Windows. It works on Linux. It works on, I think, pretty much anything you can throw at it, major platform-wise. So, I mean, it's really flexible, and you can use it for a bunch of different tasks. So it's written in JavaScript, but it's not, I wouldn't call it a front-end technology. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'm a front-end developer in Node, and it's like, it's kind of front-end, but not really. It's good that you know those concepts, but it's a server. It's a server language. It's just like Linux, and you can actually run it on Linux, on a Linux box alongside like an Apache, like your traditional Apache. So it's a really, really flexible framework, and we're going to use it as our server and router for our API as well. So we're going to build all that tomorrow, I believe. Never remember. All these days are running together. Jexter asks if I do back-end work as well, being the jack of all trades, quote unquote. Yeah, I do. I do PHP, some .NET, not a lot. I haven't done that in a while. But yeah, PHP, Node, yeah. So I like back-end as well. I can respect both, and I probably lean towards front-end more, but yeah, I respect what backend can do, and the complexities of, working with MySQLs and Mongos and things like that. There are some really talented guys out there, and knowing that they're They can do so much more than I can do sometimes. It's pretty impressive. Yes, great point, Jeff. Jeff said make sure to set the stream to 720p. I am broadcasting at 720p, so as far as I know, everything should still be running at that. Yeah, it seems like it's not perfect, but it's good, so we're good there. So yeah, you guys should still be able to see all that. So let's talk about Node. So what are we gonna do tonight? Tonight we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna show you guys how to install Node in case you don't have Node installed, and then I will show you how to get our environment kind of set up and navigate via the terminal to where we need to do and do everything we're gonna do in the terminal. Don't freak out about the terminal. Really, it's just simple commands to the computer. So if you're not comfortable with the terminal, you will get there quickly, especially if you're working with like a Node, and then Git helped a lot too. So I'll cover the basic commands. So hopefully you guys will start to get a little more comfortable with terminal. So let's go ahead and dive into that. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. We're going to jump into our, actually stay here. Let's do new folder. We're going to call it server. Which I think you guys probably have that because I put that in there initially and it's not there. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. Actually, let's leave this where it's at probably, and then I'm going to open up my terminal. Would I like it to check for updates? No, thank you. So when you open the terminal, odds are, unless you've changed something, you're going to be in your user folder when your terminal opens up. That little tilde that you see there, right here, that is, I don't know if I can, ooh, there we go. Hopefully I'll make it a little easier for you guys to see if I zoom it in here a little bit. Yeah, that's better. Because I know it's hard when you can't read anything. Okay. So, we are there. Cool. Alright, so now we got our terminal. So that little tilde that you see there, the cloud is just, that's part of my theme that I use. No big deal. It means nothing. It's just the way that my terminal looks at the moment. It has nothing to do with my browser or my connection or anything. It's just for show. I think my theme is called Cloud or something, so that's probably why that's there. Yes, it will differentiate. Great point, Brian. Thank you for bringing that up. I tend to forget you Windows users. No offense. It's just not what I've been doing for a while. So, let's, if you are on terminal, you're going to go to start and then run. And then you'll find your, I think it's called, crap, what is it called? Your terminal. It's not terminal, though. What is it called? Why am I drawing a blank right now? What is it called on... Why can I not think of this? Your command line. CMD, I think. So go ahead and open that up, and I will have to give you guys the different. So when I start navigating through, as I start navigating through the folders, you guys are actually going to have a little bit different commands. So let's grab. I'm trying to think of. Alright, let me grab those real quick for you guys so I can give them to you. Huh. Yeah, so okay. So it looks like it is fairly similar. I thought it was different. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not really a Windows guy. But, so let's go ahead. Hopefully you guys all have your command window open. Okay, there you go. Yeah, I think Jexter's right there. I think it's Windows key plus R will probably open up run. Then just type CMD and that will open up your command line. So let's go ahead, before we start navigating around the terminal, open up your browser and go to Node.js, I believe. That's not it. It's Node.js.org. Sorry. So we have... it's actually pretty straightforward. So you're going to do install. And that will actually pick up the package that you're supposed to download. So if you're on Windows, it'll download the Windows version for you. Yeah, Jexter, if I'm going across something and I'm not covering the right, because I think it's still CD on Windows, correct? If I'm incorrect there, correct me. But I think you can change directories like that still. So when we start navigating, if you come across anything that is not Windows related, or I'm calling it wrong on Windows, please let me know. Or let the people know what the right way is, and I will not be offended at all, because I should have been a little bit more prepared with that. I forgot we had Windows users. Sorry, guys. So once you install, or once that downloads, all you need to do is install it, just like you'd go through your typical install. Yeah, that's fine. So you'll install all that. I already have it installed, so I don't need to do that. Then once it's installed, what you can do is you can do, I think it's node -- version, and that'll tell you what version you're running. I need to update. The other thing to check is npm. Do npm -- version. Make sure you have those versions. I'll give everybody a few minutes to get acclimated to this install here. Good. Glad to hear that it's still CD. Okay. So we've got our server folder. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate to that. So if we're in our user folder, if you do ls-la on my version, it will give you everything that you need, everything that's in that folder. Man, that's not readable when it's that big. Hold on, let me make this bigger. There we go. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll swap it up here a little bit. Oops. All right. There we go. Okay. So I did ls-la. Yeah, and if you do cd, it is that in Windows. So you've kind of got all of these folders in your user folder. All you really want is, well, you can navigate wherever you want. I typically just work on my desktop. So I'm going to do cd desktop. Hit enter. Now we're on the desktop. Now I can see if I do ls-la. Yeah, dir is good call, Jeff. Dir is, I believe, lists out your directory or your file directories. So instead of doing ls-la, if you're on Windows, it's dir for directory, I believe. So now you see a list of all that. So what we're going to do is we're going to navigate now into our web dev crash course. So if you have a folder already on your desktop for web dev crash course, navigate to wherever that is. So let's go ahead and we're going to cd web. If you start typing a folder or a file and it's close and there's no other ones that are close to it, if you hit tab, it'll autocomplete for you. You can hit enter. So now I'm inside web dev crash course, and you'll see that I have a little lightning bolt there, and I also have the word master. You don't expect to see that on yours. That's another part of my theme with my terminal that I use, and it lets me know what branch I'm on for Git. It lets me know the lightning bolt means I have changes. So you'll see that. Don't worry about it. No big deal. We can talk about, if we have some extra time one night, we can talk about customizing your terminal. So well, okay, I don't, Node may be in program files, but you're not trying to get to Node. You want to get to your web dev crash course folder. So wherever that is, if you have that, hopefully that helps. So I'm going to go ahead and list out our files again. So we have, now we're going to go into live mod. So we're going to do cd live mod. Now we're going to go into server. So we're going to do cd server. So I'm going to bounce back a few directories real quick. And I'm going to show you that you can also change them together. So if you do web dev live mod and then server, that'll also get you there. So you don't have to enter cd, and then you don't have to step down by directories. If you know your directories, you can go ahead and type them in. No big deal. How many times can I say no big deal in one night? Jesus. All right. So we are in the server folder now. There should not be anything in here. Yeah. So it's empty. So hopefully everybody has Node installed now. So what I'm going to do first is we're going to go ahead and we're going to start playing with NPM a little bit. So NPM stands for Node Package Manager, and what that's going to do is we're going to use that to manage our packages. So that's going to be our Node modules. It's going to be our package.json. So if we do npm init, that's going to initialize a project for us, or well, a package JSON file basically. So let's go ahead and name this. We're not going to name this server. We're going to call this live mod server version 1.0. Description: web dev crash course live mod server. Entry point, let's do server.js instead of index.js. No test command, no git repository, no keywords. Author is Jason Sullivan. Put your own name there. License ISC is fine. Uh-oh. What happened? Oh. Let's run that again. I forgot you can't put a space in the name. 1.0 description. Dev crash course live mod server. Entry point will be server.js. No test command, no git repo, no keyword. Jason Sullivan. License is good. Yes, that's all good. So now we should have a package.json. This is from that error that I just got. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Don't need that right now. No big deal. No big deal. No big deal. No big deal. Jesus. All right. So now you see that this created a file with all of our information. Perfect. That's exactly what we needed. So I think the next thing we need to do is we need to edit our file structure here a bit. So we're going to do a new file. We're going to save it. We'll call it server.js. And we're calling it server.js because we called our main whatever server.js. So you can name that whatever you want. It doesn't matter for the most part. So pick whatever you want. And then we're going to write ourselves a very basic server. So we need to pull in one thing first before we do that, though. So when I said we were going to use npm to manage packages, so we're going to install our first Node module, which is going to be the HTTP module. So we're going to do npm install, and we're going to do HTTP, I believe is all it's called. And then we're going to do -- save. And what that's going to do, yeah, I think that should do it. If we hit enter, actually, I think I need, no, I shouldn't probably need that. Hit enter. It's going to read out. And that installed, if you look here, that installed a node module folder, added a node module folder, and then put the HTTP server or HTTP package on there. So now we can use HTTP. So we're going to set up our HTTP is equal to require HTTP, and then we're going to set, and we'll just set it manually. Let's do function handle request response.end. It works. Request.url. So we did a really basic JavaScript rundown the first night, and we talked about functions and passing variables into functions. So we're going to pass two things into this function. We're going to pass a request, and we're going to pass a response. So these are more than just regular variables that are like 1 and 2, or my name, or any string or Boolean value. This is actually an object. So we didn't really talk about objects, but the basic premise of an object is it's a variable with a bunch of different entries split into objects, or split into attributes. So the request has a .url. So the request, actually we could probably log out the request to show you guys kind of what it looks like. Console.log request. I think we should be able to do that. But basically there's a bunch of attributes inside this variable, and one of them is URL. And the way you access attributes inside an object is with the dot syntax. So if you do request dot, you can select whatever attribute you want on that object. Same thing with the response. It has response.end, so that's basically saying, hey, when we send our response, this is what I want you to send. If you remember, we kind of briefly talked about how the web works yesterday, I believe. So we're going to, we talked a little bit about how the web works, and it basically, when the user's browser reaches out to our URL, that's the request. What we send it back is the response. Typically, you'd send back a web page. Right now, we're just going to respond with this, which is just saying, hey, the server's working. Is basically all we're doing with that. We're going to create a server. HTTP create server. And basically what we want to do is we want to, whenever the server is invoked, we want that function we built to be what's called every time that server gets a request. We will get a much more robust server when we start building, but I just wanted to get a server up and running with you guys so you guys could kind of see how we do it basically. Alright, so then we have, the last thing we do is make the server listen. What port is it going to listen on? So we're going to say on port, we'll call it 8000. And then I'm going to throw a function in here as well, because I want this to let me know in the terminal. So we're going to do console.log server listening on HTTP localhost 8000. So now, when we start our server, it's going to let us know that, hey, everything went well, and now it's serving on port 8000. Now, if you didn't have that, it's not the end of the world. Odds are, if you hit enter and nothing happens, that's fine. If there's a problem, it will give you an error. So let's jump back into our terminal. We are in the server folder, and what we're going to do is we're going to type in node server.js, and I don't believe you need the .js, but I do it anyway. We're going to hit enter. So now you see it tells us, hey, the server's listed on localhost 8000, which is exactly what was here. So that's what that console log is doing. Now hopefully, if we did this right, if I go to, I'm going to open up my browser here. Make it kind of skinny because it's not going to do anything. Not doing anything with it right now. Alright. So if we go to HTTP localhost 8000, it works. The URL visited was basically the root URL, which is the \. So if we were to do 8000/hello, it would change to hello. So that's just giving you the route after your main domain. So let's take a look really quick at what I was talking about, the object. So I'm actually going to pop this up a little bit so it's a little easier to read. Man, there's a lot of stuff happening in this request, and actually I got 2 of them, I think, so that's probably why. Wow. I'm going to go ahead and do this. Let's give ourselves a little bit of space and let's run it one more time. Make sure I can get to the, man, that's a big old request. Okay, here we go. So I just basically spit out our object, which is our request object. So all of this information is inside that request, which is crazy. But you see max listeners, events, domain, readable true, readable state. I mean, those are all attributes and sub-attributes. So it's like basically a bunch of nested objects is basically what it is. If we scroll down far enough, eventually you'll probably see there's connection. You'll probably see URL here at some point, which is where we got. There it is. So that's when we called request.url, that's exactly what we grabbed. So that is, that is a really extremely complicated object. We will be working with objects, and that's why I haven't really covered them yet, but I just wanted you guys to see what it looks like. We'll be working with arrays and objects. So, yeah. So what is next? I think I think we're kind of caught behind a little bit. I think everything's kind of moving a little slowly as far as the feed. And I think people are having trouble with the server stuff. So before I dive into any more, let's let's take a break. I'm going to take a 5-minute break, go get a refill on my drink, and say goodnight to my kids. And then I will be back, and we will answer a few questions and troubleshoot any issues you have. If you have any issues, shoot them in Slack or on YouTube, and I will cover as much as I can cover as quickly as I can when I get back. So I will be back in 5 minutes.
Where are my stickies?
All right. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and post the code that I wrote. I think I can do this. I think Slack can handle that. There's the code for the server. And here is the code for the package.json. Alright, so I'm going to kind of start rolling here again unless somebody yells stop in the text form of yelling. Alright. Pauses. Perfect. Okay. No. Emma Anderson just noted that she doesn't know how to run the server script, even though she has Node.js installed. You need to make sure you're in the folder that has the server.js file in it within your terminal. Jin, that's good that you got it working. The only time you'd see the localhost 8080 part would be inside your terminal, not on the page. So if you're not seeing that, let me know if you're on Windows or something else. Exactly, Tom. Alright, so I'm going to kind of keep rolling here, guys. And then that way I make sure I get through everything we got to get through tonight without running long again. Because we need to install our packages for the project, and then we also need to write the script that detects the swipe. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and install before we get into a little bit of JavaScript. Let's go ahead and install the packages that I think we're going to need for our Node server. We're not going to do anything with them today, but at least we'll have them done and installed. And I want to talk briefly about this package JSON, and I want to talk briefly about working with it within a team. It's not do or die, but I think having an understanding of how it works and why it's like this and why we even use a package manager will help you kind of start to wrap your head around what we're doing here from a technology standpoint. So the reason why I did that dash save after it, which I'll show you on our next install here, which we're going to do right now. Eventually, if I can find... Oh, that's right, I made it really tall. Okay, so I'm going to close this because it's making me upset. Okay. So we got that rolling now. Okay. So I'm going to install. So we're in our server folder again. So we're going to start installing some modules. So we're going to say no or np. Oh, I'm not in there. npm. I'm going to go ahead and close this as well. We're going to npm install, and I think we're also going to need express. So we'll do express, and I'm going to do dash save. Now what's going to happen is, actually, I'm going to do it without. And what you're going to see is, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. So it's going to go through, it's going to run through its thing. Everything's installed now. And you see that we have the Express node module now, which is great. But what you see here is we only have the HTTP as a dependency, which is not a good thing. Yes, thank you, Jexter. Control C to close the server. Sorry about that, guys. So you don't see that Express module in our dependencies. Well, that's a problem. And the reason that's a problem is you don't ever, when you start working with Git and things like that, this is going to be closed. You're never going to touch this node module. You're never going to send that along. That will be ignored in the Git. And tonight I will write a Git ignore that will ignore this folder, because the reason that you ignore that folder is because realistically when you run npm install, you do that for a reason. You do that because it needs to install on your system that way. So whether it's your server or your local computer, you need to run npm install when you get a new repo that has a bunch of code and a node server. And what it does is, if you come in here and you don't have a node modules folder at all, which you shouldn't if it's the first time you installed a package or a server or a node, anything, you should just have package.json and then all your JavaScript files. And what it'll do is you'll come to that server. So I'll navigate to my server folder and I'll hit npm install. Nothing else, just npm install. And what that's going to do is it's going to look at these dependencies, all of them, and it's going to go through and automatically install all of those. So that's a way for me as a developer to start working on something, start building on it, and then send the files over. And then all my teammate has to do is type in npm install. It's going to automatically set it up just like I had it set up. And that's what's great about this. And there's other things you can add to this to even make it more so, and use things like Vagrant and make sure that the server setup is the exact same as well. The server environment setup. So, I mean, there's a bunch of different things you can do. But if you don't do dash save, it's not there, so they won't know that they need to install it. And when they run npm install to install all those dependencies, it's not going to be there, and they're going to be missing something, and your code's going to break if you're requiring that code anywhere. So anytime you do it, I'm going to run it again and do dash save. So that'll run real quick, and it'll install again. Yes, reload, and now you see we have Express. So that's great, and that's what we want to do from now on. So let's do, we need Mongoose, so we're going to do npm install Mongoose. And if we ever get to the point where you're, if it ever gets to the point where you download my repo at some point, if you decide to kind of start fresh with my new stuff, you're going to have to run npm install once we kind of start writing out this server more in depth, because if you don't, you won't have all the packages you need, because I will not include this node modules folder in the repo. So because that will cause more errors than you will be able to fix, especially on Windows. So that's kind of the main thing to know is anytime you get a new node thing, always run npm install, and that's going to run it. That should install all your dependencies if it's set up correctly. I know I just said that about 5 different ways, 5 different times, but I want to make sure you guys understand that is the quickest way to beat your head against the wall to not understand why something's not working, because the code hasn't changed, but it's not working. What is happening? And that's the reason typically. Okay. So onward. So I think what else we're gonna need is, let's see here. We need. I think that's probably all we need overall. Can't think of any other reason we would need. We've got Mongoose. I'm probably gonna. I did it. See, I just did it. I didn't do the dash save. So Mongoose is not in our file folder. We're probably gonna need more. I just can't think of them off the top of my head right now. I mean, that's the main stuff that you'll need. So that's got your MongoDB already. That's got your BSON. And that's one thing to note is when you're installing. Just wanted you to know, when you're installing like certain packages, it's going to be dependent, have its own dependencies. So you see, like these are all packages that are being installed when I installed Mongoose. You got Mongo, you got mQuery, you got async, you got all this stuff, mPromise that came along with it. So now this node module will have Mongoose, and then it'll have its own node module. So it's very interdependent on a lot of different things. There's more. Yeah, that'll cover it for now, and tomorrow when we need to actually dive into that. Yes, thank you, Jeff. Okay. So let's move on. I don't think the swipe detection is going to take very long, but just in case it might, let's go ahead and dive into that a little bit. This is all we're going to do with Node for tonight. We have a basic server set up, which is good. We got some of our dependencies installed. Yeah, so let's go ahead and save this. And then I'm going to go ahead and close my terminal. And then we're going to go to our admin.html. So I've been kind of going over back and forth on how to handle the swipe. I like the concept of Tinder, and I think we're going to do that, but I don't want it to be exactly like Tinder. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to allow swiping, but we're not going to get rid of the picture. Because I don't think, like, I want a record of everything that gets uploaded. I don't ever want to. I think we can have a method that deletes everything, but I don't want to actually get rid of it. I would just prefer it be declined or unapproved or whatever you want to call it. So, I think what we should do is keep, because I also like the aspect of the admin page, which I'm going to go ahead and open that real quick. Let's go ahead and open that. Desktop. Web Dev Crash Course, Live Mod. Let's go ahead and open up admin. Thank you, Freddie. I appreciate that. Hope you're enjoying the course. I like being able to see more than one picture, and that's the thing that Tinder kind of takes away. Is you've got a bunch of different. You've got one picture, and that's great. But I think, especially when you're in a bigger venue or an event where you could have hundreds of pictures to approve, and them all coming in pretty quickly, I think it will make sense to have all of them visible, and you can just go through and instead of, because with Tinder you have you swipe, it falls away. You swipe, it falls. So you're constantly reloading pictures, Like I said, I think that would slow down the process of anybody that's trying to do it. I mean, it also makes sense that it's not scrolling. You guys are killing me. You guys are too good. In desktop view, you got that look already. That same time you're gonna make up by scrolling, or that time you lose scrolling will probably equal out. No. I'm gonna stick with my initial thought here because it's two things. It's that, but it's also, when I think about it, it's also being able to kind of, what we're gonna do is if we swipe left, it's going to decline it. If we swipe right, it's going to approve it. But what it's going to do is instead of getting rid of it or doing anything crazy with it, all it's going to do is it's just going to put a red glow if it's declined and a green glow over the top if it's approved. And you'll be able to swipe back and forth as much as you want to switch that. So you can go, oh, that one's good. And then when you're scrolling, that way you can kind of go through, and if somebody's like, hey, my picture got declined, I didn't see anything was wrong with it, you can kind of scroll down through and see the ones that got declined. And you can say, yeah, well, this was a little sketchy for my taste, or yeah, oh, that was a mistake, and then unswipe it. And that'll all happen live. So if you, when you swipe, it'll update, once we're done, it will update on swipe. Okay. So let's get into that. So I'm actually going to bounce this back to one frame. All right. Move this over here. Because really the swipe only happens on the mobile view. Is the way I'm envisioning this happening. So let's go ahead. All right. All right. So in order to do this, we need to we're going to wrap. We might not have to do that. Let's save this. So I'm going to write my script down here. I'm going to write it in line for now. Because I want to get through this quickly so I can kind of give you guys a gulp demo real quick. For those that want it, they can stick around and watch that. For those that don't, they can move on. So we're going to declare our jQuery function. Function. Our anonymous function that will automatically call when it gets to us. Let's see. So we got. I think we should probably throw. I don't think we need to actually. Let's do $. We're going to invoke jQuery. We're going to say admin media list li dot on on swipe right. We are going to say swipe right handler. So what this is doing is this is reaching into jQuery, and jQuery has swipe right, swipe left, and I think it's swipe up and swipe down. So it has functions built into it, or methods built into it, that recognize those swipes. And when that happens, when it detects that, it will call a function. So what we need to do is write a function for this first we're going to write the opposite direction too. So we're going to do admin media list li on swipe left handler. Right. Okay. So what this is doing is this is saying, hey jQuery, find admin media list, which is this, and then find the li, all the li's inside of it. Put basically a swipe listener, swipe right and swipe left listener on that, and when that listener is triggered, call either the swipe left or swipe right function. So let's do, we're going to call a function now, so we're going to say function swipe right handler. And we're going to pass in the event. And we're going to say $, event.target .add class. And actually, I don't want to add class. That's a great. Initially I thought add class, but now that I think about it, so what this is going to do is when it swipes, it's going to add a class to the target of the event. So the event's target's going to be li. So it's going to be our li. So when we swipe it, it's going to add a class to the li and say, hey, this class has been added to your class list. What I'm thinking, though, is currently we have no way, once a picture comes in and you swipe, it's either going to be approved or declined. What if you're not sure? What if you don't want to approve it, but you don't want to decline it? I'm thinking that what we could do... yeah, I like that. So what we'll do is we're also going to... We're not going to add a class. We're actually going to toggle a class. So I think what we'll do is when somebody swipes right, it'll trigger it. It's going to toggle the class. So if the class is off, by default it'll be off. You swipe right, it's going to toggle that class on. So the class, whatever we're going to call it, we'll call it approved, probably. Maybe not approved. We'll call it right swipe. So if right swipe isn't there, the toggle class will add it. If it is there, the toggle class will remove it. So what I'm thinking is, if we do right swipe, it'll toggle the class right swipe on. And then if we right swipe again, it'll toggle it off, and that will make the picture not declined, not approved. And we'll do the same thing for left swipe. So if you swipe twice, it's basically back to neither. I think that's probably the best way to handle that, I think. But we also need to make sure event.target.remove class, just in case it's toggled on, you don't want both. So we're going to do remove left swipe, which is what we'll call the other one. So this will toggle the right swipe on or off, preferably on, but either way it's going to remove left because nothing to the right should ever trigger anything to the left. So let's write our function now for the swipe left handler. Spell that right? Yeah. We're going to pass in our event again. You don't have to put spaces around it. I just like to let my code breathe a little bit sometimes. We're going to do $, event.target again. Toggle class left swipe. And then we need to do the same thing we did. So anytime you're going left, you won't want anything to do with right. So we'll say event.target.toggle class, or no, I'm sorry, remove class right swipe. And just to kind of show you guys how I work a little bit and good ways to make sure that everything's doing what it's supposed to do, and that there's not anything wrong with your code, or not anything wrong with your code, because you can still have things wrong with your code. But what this will do, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say console, .log swiped right. And typically I would just set up this event and without all this toggle class and all that, but I'm just, for time's sake, I'm just going ahead and coding it out. But typically I would just set up these two functions and just put these console logs in there and then test. I wouldn't have written out all this first. But I feel like I have a pretty good handle on what we're doing with this. So I'm going to give it a shot here and see if it does what I want it to do. Fingers crossed. Oops. Let's go over to our browser. We're going to reload. Yeah. I think we're going to run into an issue that you can't swipe on. Oh, I wonder if we can switch to... Let's switch to an iPhone 6 here. Reload. Okay. So let's try swipe left here. Ooh, it didn't do anything. It's not doing anything. Come on. So I'm wondering if we need to wrap this in a div. Not a huge fan of that, but see if that helps. Admin media list li div. That should do it. Let's see how it goes here. I guess it helps if I check this out here. Yeah, you guys are right. That is correct. Bear with me for a minute here. All right. My bad there, guys. I was thinking of jQuery Mobile, which we're using on a project right now. Yes, that is correct, Greg. It is on Tom and I forgot who else called that out. Tom and Jexter. Yep. So let's do this a little bit differently. So we're going to say on think about this for a second. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to set this may not be the most, so we're going to say start X, we're going to do var start Y. So let's do touch start. Function. All right. So I think we can move this back to li now. Event. All right. So we're going to, on touch start, we're going to console log out the event real quick, just to show you guys the object that comes along with the event. We're going to do the same thing with touch end. I'm going to reload that. Inspect element. So now you get to see so every time I touch, basically I do a touch. Here, let's reload so we can kind of clean this. Alright, so when I touch, we get an event. And when I release, oh well, I'm gonna have to get rid of that anchor tag. Actually, we don't need to get rid of it. We just need to hijack it. So now you have your touch end and your touch start. So that's telling you what kind of event it was. So let's go ahead and open that up and look at all the stuff you've got. So you've got alt key, bubbles, cancelable, control key. You've got all this stuff in your object. You can look at what was the target. The target was the P, which was the paragraph tag, because that's where I clicked. You've got pretty much anything you could think of in here, which is great. You got the view, you've got, I mean, it'll give you all kinds of stuff here. You've got the target. You've got pretty much everything you could need here. Except for the one thing we need. Huh. Okay. So I am drawing a blank at the minute. So I think we're going to go ahead and use I think what we'll use real quick is I'm going to bounce back here a little bit. We are going to go ahead and bring in jQuery Mobile. So let's get the this will be a good way to show you guys how the Google CDN works. developers.google.com/speed/libraries. I'll put this in the repo. So now you see like where you can get Angular, you can get regular jQuery, jQuery Mobile, jQuery UI, MooTools, Prototype. Like, I mean, they have pretty much everything you can think of. We're going to come in here and snag us some jQuery Mobile here. Hopefully that will just allow this to work. Whoa. That was weird. It's really weird. Okay. What is that? Oh. So there's your jQuery Mobile default styles. So now that that's brought in here, we should be able to reload. Swipe left, swipe right. Swipe left, swipe right. Now let's make sure that that's actually updating what we want it to update. Oh. So it's updating the picture, okay. So let's actually do that a little bit different. Yeah, actually I'm okay with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do li image. So this only happens on the actual image itself. It's not when we reload. I'm okay with the image taking the class. So you see there, if you're kind of watching here, we don't have the actual styles in there for it yet, but as you see me swiping there, it's kind of saying, okay, I like that, I like that. So let's do a little bit different. Let's do event.target dot find dot the target dot parent dot dot find div dot toggle class. So what this is going to do, it's going to bounce up to the parent. Save that. So I don't have a div in there right now, but we need to put a div in here to put our overlay on, which we could probably put class, what do we want to call that? We'll call it decision overlay. So we're going to put one of these in every image, and when we get to templates, this will be a lot more straightforward. Okay, so now we have a decision overlay. Let's scroll down here and change that from div to find the dot decision overlay. I'm going to take that whole thing and make it happen here and here. Alright. So now, spec element. So now we have the decision overlay div in all of our images. So what's going to hopefully what will happen is when we swipe here, swiped left, swiped right. Uh-oh, I messed something up. What did that do? That should work. Actually, I might be able to get away with getting rid of this parent. Might be the issue. It's going up one too many. Did I spell it wrong? Did I spell it wrong? I probably did. I did. Spelled it wrong. Save that. Inspect that element. There we go. What happened? Oh. So I was right. So I'll explain what this code is doing here in a second. Okay. So now that's swipe left, swipe right. Okay, so what it's doing, I'm going to walk you through this code here a little bit. So what it's doing is, whatever the event target is, which the event target is always going to be the image because we've actually gone right to the image. So if they swiped on the text, it wouldn't do anything. And so it's going to do, so the event target's always going to be the image. And then it's going to bounce up. What it's going to do is it's going to say, okay, the event happened on the target. Now I want you to look at the target's parent, which is, if you look in your Chrome tools here, you will see that our parent is this href. So it's going to look at that and it's going to say, within that href, or that anchor tag, find a div or anything with the class decision overlay, which happens to be the one div we have in there. And then it says toggle the class right swipe and remove the class left swipe. Same thing with down here. So basically what it's doing is, if we swipe right twice, it gets rid of it. So if I do one time, right swipe. If I do right swipe again, it goes away. Left swipe again, it goes away. So that's basically the very basic premise of that. And that's all I'm going to actually do for that. That's actually styling that is going to be part of your guys' homework tonight, along with a few other things. So I'm going to jump into gulp now briefly. So for anybody that has questions or anything like that, thank you guys for bearing with me on that jQuery mobile thing. I should have done a little bit. I should have actually tested instead of just flying by the seat of my pants, but that's just kind of how I do it. So, because I like you guys seeing the mistakes I make, because I don't think I'm the only one that makes these mistakes. So it's good to see that how you kind of work through them. Thank you guys for your input on that. I probably would have spun my wheels a few minutes longer, and yeah. So, what are we going to do? So we're going to back out of all this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this in. I'm going to push this up to the repo as soon as we're done here. And your day 3 homework will be part of the repo as well. And basically what you're doing tonight will be to style that swipe. So basically you're going to set some kind of a style. You're going to research opacity. You're going to research how to kind of make that div fill that whole anchor tag or that image. And we are going to and then I also want you guys to clean up any of the styling that bringing in jQuery mobile did. I'm adding that right now. To see if you guys can figure out how to kind of overwrite their default styling. You'll see a little bit of it here in the nav, but that's the biggest thing. So let's dive into gulp here very briefly, and I want you guys to see how I would set this project up if I was doing it like as a real paid job. So I'm going to go ahead and close all this. I'm even going to close our web dev crash course. I won't. I'll set up a folder. So we'll do new folder. We're going to call this, we'll call it gulp demo. So I'm going to pretend like, and I'm actually going to close this because I just want to work. Seeing all those other files is going to get distracting. So I'm going to just open up gulp here. Just the gulp demo file. Alright. So, the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to want to add a couple things. So we're going to open up our terminal. And we're going to navigate. So I'm going to navigate real quick to my folder. Web dev crash course, cd gulp demo. Okay, so now we're in gulp demo. So I'm going to start by doing npm init And we're going to say, yeah, that works. Gulp demo 1.0, description, no. Yeah, that's fine. Test command, that's fine. Get repository, no get repository. Author is me. That's fine. Yep, that works. Okay, so now we have a package.json. Nothing crazy happening there. But we need to do npm install gulp. So that's going to run through its little thing there. And you know, I forgot to do the -- save, so I'm going to do that again. So then I would also install a few other dependencies. So I would do gulp npm install gulp ESLint damn it. It's going to get really old if I have to keep doing this every time. I'm going to make this bigger again for you guys so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Alright, I'm going to do that again. That's going to get really old if I don't stop doing that. Alright. Trying to see some of our stuff coming through here. Then we're going to do npm install gulp auto prefixer. And what that does, dang it, I did it again. What that does is it actually takes pretty much when we were talking about yesterday with the border radius. So I think somebody asked about what is the -moz and what is the -webkit. Those are prefixes for Mozilla or Firefox and the other question or the other WebKit is for Safari. So what happens is auto prefixer will take the default one because on top of those two you also had to have border radius. So what prefixer does is you just type border radius, then prefixer, as it compiles your code, looks for any of those ones that have to have prefixes and auto prefixes those for you. So you don't have to sit there and type out .moz or -moz -webkit. Like, you don't have to do that. It'll do it for you, which is a great tool. Gulp npm install gulp minify dot -css We'll do npm install. Yeah, I didn't do it. Damn it. Grr. And then we're going to do npm install gulp -ESLint, which that basically checks for. Oh, I did it again. It's getting late, guys. Alright. Save. And this is not actually part of the project. Let me. I know, Tom. I keep forgetting save. I'm kind of distracted. I wanted to make note that, if you guys are, if you guys don't want to learn about Gulp right now, and we're not really learning about it, I'm just covering how I would set up a project. Don't feel like you have to stick around. I'll have the homework out here in about 20 minutes. But we had a few people request Gulp, like how to work with Gulp and how I would set up the project. So that's why I'm doing this. So you want to stick around, more than welcome to. Don't feel like you have to, because we won't actually be using this in the project. So, yeah. This has been forewarned. Alright. Yeah. Slow. There we go. Let's do npm install gulp utilities. I spend most of the time installing all these dependencies. Npm install gulp uglify -js save. We're going to do npm install gulp concat -js save. Okay, and npm install gulp size -js save. Almost done here, guys. Install del -js save. We're going to do npm install gulp sass. Come on. Sass is a bigger one. Okay. And then we'll do npm install npm install. I got everything I want. Let me double check. Oh yeah, merge stream. -js save. npm install unsequence -js save. npm install gulp watch -js save. And then one more after this one, I promise. 902. We're getting there. And then we're going to do npm install gulp plumber -save. Okay. Now that's installing. So now we need to do a new file. We're going to call this gulp file. Save this gulp file .js. So what all these tools do is it basically runs all of your code, your JavaScript, your Sass, your and basically takes it and creates all the files you need to go on your production server. You don't want any of your Sass files or any of your raw JavaScript files. You just want a nice minified single file for JavaScript and single file for why am I drawing a blank here? For your JavaScript and for your styles. So you want two files, one for each, basically. You can do more, and you can. This allows you to output different things, and I'll show you how. So we're going to go ahead and require all those dang things. We're going to do require gulp equal to require gulp. I'm going to do this about few more times. All right. Yes, lint. Basically, I need to bring all this stuff in so it's accessible to my gulp script here. Uglify is the next one. Uglify. Concat. Wire. I always have trouble with the word concat for some reason. Delete. Need. Size. Sass. Auto prefixer. Fixer. Minify CSS. Minify CSS. Merge. Merge stream. Gulp watch. Watch. And last but not least, plumber. Oh, you know what? I think I missed one. Now that I think about it, I feel like I'm one short. I think I know which one it is. Yeah. Right after merge. Ready to run sequence. Spell right? Acquire on dash sequence. Spelled require there, wrong there. Alright, now we can actually get into some work here. So I'm going to set up, the first thing I'm going to set up are my paths. So I'm going to do paths, var paths, and this is going to be basically the paths to all the folders I want to utilize. Now, bear in mind that I could just probably copy and paste this for you guys. But, yeah, I'm going to write it out. It's fine. So we're going to have our source first, which is basically going to be where everything comes from and where everything goes. And then we're going to go, first we're going to do CSS. That package. Sorry. And we'll have a package for CSS. And then we're going to have what would be our global styles, which is going to be pretty much everything we have. And that's going to be just an array. I mean, you could have multiple things, but I don't want that. What this is going to draw on is our SAS folder and then our main .sass. Some people use SCSS. I prefer SASS. The only difference is you don't have to use all the curly brackets and semicolons and SAS, and you do, and everything is indent based for like your structure. So instead of having semicolons and curly braces, you would do, and I'll show you a quick demo here in a minute. But you would basically do indents to show your nesting and all that stuff. So that is probably all we need for CSS. Oh, I forgot a comma there. So then you'll do JS. And that's going to get, we're also going to create a package for that. And then we're pretty much going to do a global here, I think. I think we might break it up later into a couple other sub quote-unquote classes, but for now, this will do enough, I think. So this is going to be in our JavaScript folder. It's going to be JavaScript. We're going to do script.js for all our global scripts. And then if we were to do like a bootstrap or something, that would also go here. So like bootstrap.js, like all that stuff would go here. And what this is going to do is it's going to package those two scripts. And then let's say we had a jQuery too, real quick. Which we technically wouldn't, but it's fine. So JS jQuery .min.js. So what that's going to do is the global.js is going to be a combination of all three of these files, concatenated and then minified. So instead of having three different files to load into your DOM, you have one global file. And you can set up other packages. You could set up like whatever admin.js, so only the JavaScript for the admin shows up in this package. So you would say, like JS admin.js. So that way, if you want, then you would call in JS bootstrap and JS jQuery if you were going to use it like that. But there's other ways of doing that too. You could have a vendor file that you just always load. That's a possibility too. But then now our package would be global and admin. So you would have a global.js that would have all of these things concatenated and minified. You would have an admin.js that would have all the same things but with different files. Or all the same concatenated and minified. So then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to create... we have our source now that's telling us where everything's at. So now we need to tell it where to output our completed files at, which is going to be our build folder. Build, and that's going to be in the same directory as this gulp file. Then we're going to have a temp folder, and that's kind of where all the temp stuff's going to happen. So things that are kind of in progress. And then the final folder is going to be CSS, and that is going to go to just our CSS folder. And then the same thing for JavaScript. JS. So now all those files that I just gave it, when I run gulp, it's going to take all. Well, not yet. I haven't told it to do all that yet, but that's going to tell it know where to get my files from. And so anytime I add another file, I need to come in here and say, okay, I want to add that to global. So I need to, it's a good way to manage everything and to keep everything clean and concise. So that is all we need to do in our paths. And now we can write our tasks. Ooh. Okay. And so we're going to do gulp.task clean. Yeah, it's 9:15 already. Goodness. Function CB. Alright. So we're going to return. This is where we're going to play with our delete function a little bit here. So what this is going to do is it's going to say path.output.build. Oh, forgot put. Paths.output.temp. So what that's going to basically say is it's going to take all those, everything that's in the build folder and everything that's in the temp, it's going to get rid of it. It's going to wipe it clean. And then we're going to do a gulp.task for our styles. Oop. And then we're going to do for our merged is equal to merge. And that's basically just calling on our required merge stream. And we're going to do object.keys, which is paths, paths.source.css.package. So what that's going to do is it's going to get all the things that we need to do. And then we're going to map all those with a key. Close all that off. Make sure that we don't miss anything. We're going to do merged.add gulp.source paths.source.css.package key. So basically what's happening is here is we're taking all of the paths that are inside this package and then mapping each one to a key. So each one is a key. So now to our merge function, we're basically adding, for each one, we're handing it the actual path, which is going to be, so this is our object, and I spelled source wrong. This is our object, paths.source.css. So paths.source.css .package, and then it's going to go to global. So really, it's only going to iterate over one because we don't have a whole lot happening there. But you need to do that because if you have more styles or more packages, you have to be prepared for it. So we're going to pipe plumber function. This basically, we're just going to put some error handling in here. We're going to say utility, and basically that's just like a console log. That colors that red error message, and what this will do is when we're running gulp, it will give us a nice error, so we know what went wrong, and it's going to stop. Then we're going to do pipe Sass, and what that does is it'll run all of our Sass code, and we're going to do pipe .concat key. So this is going to be the name of the key, which our key in this case is going to be global, right here inside that package. Because you're running paths, source, CSS, package, and our key, and the only key we have is global, so it's definitely going to be global. But if there's more than one, it'll just iterate over. Okay, concat key, and then we need to add what we're going to call this. So we're going to say plus .min.css, so that way it knows what kind of file. We know what kind of file it is. Pipe size. Title CSS before. Come on. Plus key. So this is just really kind of helping you see what's happening when it's running your gulp task. All right, and we're gonna do pipe dot gulp. Oh, I'm sorry. Wow, that was not even close. Pipe. Gulp.dest. Sorry, no period. Paths.output.temp. So now it's moving it temporarily to the temp folder. Now we're gonna, and so that's basically just a way to kind of move it along, and then we can do gulp. Or I'm sorry, auto prefixer. Last 3 versions, i.e. this is basically saying, okay, auto prefixer, this is what I need you to cover when you auto prefix all my code here. So I need you to cover IE9, Opera 12.1, iOS 6, iOS 7, Android 4, and Firefox 27. That feels about right. That's going to cover the major releases that you need to cover with a prefixer. Then we're going to do pipe again. Gulp, a destination. So again, we're going to move our new file to output.temp. And then we're going to pipe. Now we're going to take all our code and minify it. I'm going to say process import, and we're not going to do that. We're going to say false. I think by default it is set to true. Gulp.destination again. Paths. Output.temp. Oh, I'm sorry. Now we're going to build. My bad. So we're getting there. We're getting there. Pipe size. So what this is doing is it's comparing your size. Oh, I was right there. It's comparing or showing you the file your size. After key. I missed something. What did I miss here? Missed something. Why does that not look quite right? Pipe plumber dot stop. That's right. Dang. On error util.log. Man, that's a lot to digest. Basically, what you're doing is you're taking your file, running it through SAS, running all your SAS files, and which compiles it all into one main SAS file. Then you're concatenating all that into a min CSS. Then you're taking that and throwing it into your temp folder, and then you're doing your auto prefixer, which runs over the code and adds prefixes wherever it's needed. And it's moving that to the temp folder, overwrite your previous one. Then you're minifying it all. Then you're sending it to the build folder, and you're sending a note saying this is your file and the size. And then you're telling it to stop, and if there's an error, to log that error. Whew, that was a lot. That was a lot. And then the last thing we need to do, is return merged. So then we're going to do basically the same thing for scripts. There's just a few less steps. So I'm just literally going to copy this whole thing just to save on time because we're pushing 9:30, 2.5 hours again. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing. Merge path source. Instead of CSS, it's going to be JS. It's going to run the pipe thing again. Make sure there's no errors. We're going to get rid of this because there's no SAS in JS. And we're going to get rid of prefixer all the way down to, I think all we need is the concat, which I think I just deleted actually. We don't need SAS. And we don't need minify or auto prefixer. I think. So the only difference, yeah, so now we have size. And this is going to be, not CSS, this is JS. And it's also going to be min.js. And then we need to throw dot pipe. We're going to uglify this. Uglify, beautify, quote, keys, true. Wait, did I just... No, that's right. That's right. Basically what that does is it just shows you, it's basically like minifying it, but it makes it the right way for JS instead of CSS. Actually, no. No, that's not what that does. You know what, I'll be honest, I am drawing a blank right now. It's getting late. That should be everything you need there to run scripts. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to do two things. So we're going to do gulp.task. Task. Develop. Or I guess we'll do build, not develop. Build function, and this is pretty much the last thing we're going to write here, guys. And basically all we're going to do is this is where we're going to use that run sequence. So we're going to actually utilize the stuff we have above. So we have scripts and we have styles and we have clean. So we're going to run sequence. And we're just going to tell it what to run. So we're going to say run clean. Then I want you to run styles. Then I want you to run scripts. And then your CV variable. And so when you do gulp task and build, gulp build, it's going to run clean, and then it's going to run styles, and it's going to run scripts, and I'll export everything. The other thing we can do is we'll do gulp.task, and we'll give it the default, and we'll say comma, and we're going to tell it develop. So basically, if you just type gulp, it's automatically going to default to this, or not, I'm sorry, not develop, build, I'm tripping. It's going to automatically default to this task. So if you just typed gulp, that's what it's going to do. Then the last one I want to do, just to show you guys, if you're working long term, and like you're going to be sitting down and saving a lot of stuff and checking, and you don't want to run gulp every time, we're going to set up a watch function. So we'll do watch function, and we're going to say watch. We're going to tell it to watch all of our SAS folder, which is SAS. SAS. So any subfolders in SAS, and then any files in those folders that finish in .sass. And then we're going to do the same thing with JS. So it's going to be JS **, and then again, so any folders inside of JS, and then any files inside those folders that end in JS. And then outside that, we're going to say function files CB. And now we're going to say gulp.start build. And that is going to, by default, if we do gulp watch, that will constantly run. So anytime you save any files, make any changes to any files, and you save it, gulp watch is going to be working in the background. So let's see if we broke anything. We probably did. I knew it. God dang it. It's that extra thing that I threw on for no reason whatsoever. It just felt like it needed it. Let's try that again. Perfect. So now it's gulp watching. Okay. So check this out. So we're going to, real quick, this will take 2 minutes and we'll be done. I'm going to create a new folder called SAS. SAS. New folder. Where'd it go? JS. Oh, there. Okay. And I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to go ahead and create real quick just the folder structure that I would do inside SAS. So it's new folder modules. New folder partials. New folder vendor. And new file, which is going to be your main file save, main.sas. So now inside of SAS we have these 3 folders, and basically the way I break it up is if there's any like vendor styles for like jQuery mobile or anything like that, they would go in there. Partials would be anything that's like, like the admin page, the live feed page, all that different stuff. And modules would be like, the beautiful thing about SAS is you can do variables, so that'll be all your base level variables, your color styles, your page breaks, your media query sizes, stuff like that. We're not going to get too much into what SAS does, but so I'm going to create one new file here. We're going to call it we'll call it header.sas, and I'm going to do I think it's include. What is it? Include. Damn it. I'm drawing a blank so bad here. Import, not include. Yeah, sorry. Let's add import. I just looked it up. I'm tired. So we're going to import partials and header. You don't have to put the SAS after it. You don't. I don't believe you need a thing for it either. So now let's run gulp. Awesome. Now we should have a build folder here. I thought we should. Hello. And throw a build in there. Let's try that one more time. Like, come on. This thing's freaking out on me. I'll quit that and reopen it. Let's try that one more time. What in the world? Temp. New folder build. Alright, now let's try it again. I don't think you need it though, that's what's crazy. Well, that's weird. Did I forget something here? No, that all looks pretty good. That all looks pretty good. Am I missing something? I'm missing something here. Ah. I don't think that has anything to do with it, but. Yep. It's weird that that's not airing out at all. Here we go. Thank you guys. I appreciate your input there. Okay. So let's look at... Let's not actually bring anything in here. Make sure I just grabbed... No, that should be right. Partials header. Maybe I need a semicolon there. I didn't think you did with SAS, but what do I know? Yeah, I agree, Tom. It should definitely break all of those. Tom is saying that it should break the whole script, and I agree. I don't understand why it wasn't throwing an error, because, I mean, those were not small. That was not like a missing semicolon. That was not even syntactically correct at all. Alright, so let's look at the gulp file again here. I'm trying to do anything stupid. It's because it's not finding anything in the JS file. New file. What do I call that? I'm fading, guys. I'm fading. We'll do the same thing. Oh, I need to get my code for that. New file. Script.js. The same thing. Alright, let's see. Let's get rid of this stuff that doesn't exist. That might be not helping. Alright. Cool. Hey! I think we may have gotten somewhere there. Look at that. Look at that. Except that that's not the way it should be working. Did I bring up my packages incorrectly? I probably did. No. No, I didn't. Well, I'm still not pulling that. It's not getting to... Why is it running that twice? So that's weird. All right. I guess I do need that. I don't think I did. Exactly what I wanted to do. This doesn't make any sense, but I'm going to do it anyway. Maybe I need to look at that styles real quick here. Make sure that looks right. Looks pretty good. It's not even getting to that part. It's not giving me an error either, which is really weird. I shouldn't spell anything wrong here. Source. CSS package. No, that looks quite right, actually. Oh, wait. Huh. Why didn't you guys catch that? No, I think that's right. No, I think that's right. I don't think it's an array. Could be wrong, though. Craig said it should be an array. That might be right. Yeah, no, it's not. I don't think it is. Don't think it is. You know what it might be, because I'm kind of stupid sometimes, is that I didn't actually put anything in header sass. Yeah, sorry guys. So we'll just do test. Okay, so see, like I do SCSS at work, so you don't need anything. So it's test and then indent and then width 100%, height 100%, display block. So let's save that. Now let's gulp it. I bet something happens. Come on. Yes, I knew it. Stupid. Alright. So now we should have something in the global min. Look at that. Look at that. Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. A little bit of a brain fart, but we are done, I think, for now. I wanted to show you gulp watch real quick. If you do gulp watch, hit that. It's just going to run. It's just going to sit there and wait. So now if I add something to this, let's say I do .test2, do width 50%, height 50%, display inline. Save that. Oh. What? Well, maybe you're right there, buddy. Maybe you are right. Try that again. There's something wrong with that. That wasn't it, but there's something wrong with the way I'm doing watch, I guess. What? I don't really know. Maybe. Doesn't feel like that would be an issue though. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see what the issue is there, but I am going to wrap this because I need to get to bed. Thank you guys. Yeah, I will push all this stuff up to the repo, and hopefully I can figure out what this little weird thing is, but sorry this took so long. I hope everybody that wanted to learn something learned something, and yeah. So, hope everybody has a good night. I will be on Slack for a few minutes while I push up the homework. Let me know if you have any questions. Take care, and I'll see you guys soon.